I co-founded HeroX as my fourth startup because I really believe in the power of people, and the power of people to innovate. If you think about what fundamentally differentiates us from all the other species on the planet, it's our ability to imagine, it's our ability to create. We are tool makers, we're innovators. If you look at the world around you and everything we have, it's all been created by us, and we've done an amazing job at it. And in the last 100 years or so, we've created an unprecedented era of peace and stability, and rising quality of living by almost every standard imaginable. And yet, this world has no shortage of problems. We have a lot of problems that we are dealing with. And that's something that we're going to talk about today, and I'm excited about it. Another big trend in organizations, of course, is using open innovation and open ecosystems and crowdsourcing to drive innovation. And of course, this is a trend that we're going to talk about a lot. The panelists are all experts in this area, and I believe that this is the future for organizations of almost all shapes and sizes, including public sector organizations, governments, as well as private companies. And the beauty of the free market, because I believe in the free market, it's a good model, is the free market allows us to adapt, and better models survive. Better models become adopted quickly, because if you don't adopt superior and better models, you're going to fall behind and eventually perish. So the idea of mixing internal innovation and external innovation, I think is an idea that's just heading to mainstream now. Some of you may have already seen this diagram. This is a bad diagram. I drew it. I'm not a designer, but it hammers the point home. And this is actually was inspired by the book Machine Platform Crowd, which is a really good book. That a third of the book talks about crowdsourcing. A third of the book talks about machine learning and AI. So if you really want to understand AI and get past the hype, it's a good primer for that. And a third of the book is about the platform model, which is really about networks, network effects, and why change perfuses so fast. And now that we're all connected to the internet, we're all connected to each other, and more of our devices and objects and things are all connected at the same time, and that drives exponential curves. It's often called exponential technology. And platforms are the way that you convert a pipeline, a traditional company of a pipeline, into a network optimized structure. And so I highly recommend reading that. But what this diagram really shows is the fact that organizations, to be competitive, need to focus on collaboration and opening things up, because that's the world we live in. We live in a connected world. And so organizations are now the nexus of an ecosystem, and that's going to be the future. And the primary method of that we call crowdsourcing, but really crowdsourcing is just about us collaborating and using our technology to collaborate more efficiently and at higher scale than ever before. So crowdsourcing is everywhere. I just wanted to share some of these examples here. Taiwan has done crowdsourcing at the government level. And that one I really like is Iceland's new constitution, which was crowdsourced and basically built by feedback from citizens, rather than the founding fathers getting together, or hand-picking people who would decide what's best for everybody. This is something that's just really radical in government, by the way, very radical in government, and it's happening. And it's being driven by the fact that more and more crowdsourcing has become more and more commonplace. And even Elon is doing it. In fact, Elon's done a lot of crowdsourcing. Hyperloop is effectively a crowdsourced industry that he created by releasing a paper and running an annual prize, innovation prize. And that's just an amazing example of that. And he's recently announced a partnership with XPRIZE to offer $100 million for a carbon capture solution, which I think is awesome. There's lots of other examples we can talk about, but I think some of these are I've talked about before. Bill Gates, he has a lot of money and he wants to put it to good use. And one of the challenges that he's dealing with, and yes, that's a jar of poop that he's looking at right there, by the way. He carries it around, at least he used to. He worked with big industry on the sanitation problem, big industry on the infrastructure, but the toilets, the endpoints, if you will, there was no good solution that fit the needs for the developing world. So he used crowdsourcing to solve that problem and came up with some pretty amazing solutions. Many of these have made a significant impact to sanitation solutions in the private sector, in the public sector, and elsewhere. It's a really great example of crowdsourcing working. And so crowdsourcing has just become a mainstream tool.